Welcome to the wonderful world of dance, bringing you exclusive interviews with top dancers and choreographers and reviews of the world's best companies across the globe. You can find lots more on our website at thewonderfulworldofdance.com.
Hi, this is Savannah Saunders from The Wonderful World of Dance, and today's interview is one that I've been wanting to do for some time as we discuss the work and company of one of the most important choreographers of the 20th century, Pina Bausch. Following the choreographer's death in 2009, the company has embarked on the expansion of their repertoire to include new works by two choreographers being premiered at Sadler's Wells in London this month. One of the choreographers chosen for this important work is Norwegian choreographer Alan Lucien Øyen. Now, I have to say that today's interview is a unique one because both Alan and I happen to both be in Thailand on holiday on different islands at the same time. Hi, Alan.
Hello.
So
Great to talk to you.
Yeah, so good to talk to you. So I'm on Phuket at the stunning Slate Hotel, and my view is of this luscious green palm trees and endless blue skies as I look over the pool. Where are you, Alan?
I'm in a little porch front of my bungalow, which is just wonderful. Just a little spit from the beach. I can see the waves and the ocean in front of me.
Goodness.
But I'm slightly horrified because I never take this is my first vacation in like 3 years.
Wow.
I'm an absolute workaholic, so I feel like maybe people will get the wrong impression now that I'm somebody who's always kind of working off of the beach, which is really not me.
Well,
So
well, interestingly, I only had two breaks last year, so I think
very good.
Two workaholics happened to be on holiday at the same time.
Yes.
So for all those listeners who are freezing right now in the UK and in Norway and across the world, we do work hard.
Yes, totally.
Okay, well, let's talk about the amazing company, Tanztheater, Wuppertal, Pina Bausch.
Yes.
But for those listeners who may not know or have seen the work of the company, tell us a bit about the company, Alan.
Oh, well, it's a group of dancers who's been working together with Pina since the late 70s. And, oh God, what's the succinct truth about Tanztheater? I mean, they work together with Pina Bausch, and they kind of have had a huge impact on the world of dance and the world of theater as well, in terms of how we create dance and how we define dance and how we define performance, really. It's incredible. It's dance theater, which is a genre that was kind of coined, if not coined, but at least kind of developed by Pina together with the dancers, and she sourced a lot of her work through the dancers, so it's a very kind of personal body of work which still is living and breathing because the people who developed it are still there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, for those listeners who are really interested in understanding the incredible, history of not only Pina but the company and the development of her work, there is a lot of incredible videos on YouTube that really go into the company and her work in depth, and like you say, the impact that she has had on the dance and the theatre generally. It's almost sort of there is no almost modern day contemporary dance without Pina, really.
No, not really. No, you couldn't really say.
So, how did you get involved with working with the company?
Well, I was just gracefully invited to do this, to work with them by Adolphe Binder, whom I had worked with on an occasion before when she was directing Gothenburg Opera's dance company, and I was just called up and asked if I would do it, and I didn't blink or hesitate. I just said, of course. It's an amazing honor, and still, whenever I talk about it, I have to pinch my arm. I'm very, very grateful for having gotten to know them and be able to work with them.
And tell us about, absolutely. Tell us about the piece that you have created that is going to be premiered at Sadler's Wells.
Oh, well, like anything, if you ask me a question, is a long story.
Please, tell us the long story.
Well, certainly this one, it's a work that we developed together over maybe 10 or 11 weeks last year, premiered in June. And it's a composite of stories and situations and movements that we kind of developed together, or that the dancers brought forth through our process, which is not unlike how Pina worked. I was actually shocked. I mean, of course, I knew a lot about the work of Pina, but the details of how she created and how she worked with them, I was shocked to see to what extent I was influenced by her way of working without knowing it, because her influence has been so tremendous on the world of dance and the world of theater, how we actually create work. And I always start with the performers. I engage with them through conversations and exchange with movements and words, and to see what comes up, what we want to talk about together. And that was certainly important for me in this instant with a company like Pina's, that I wouldn't come in and say, so you stand over there and you move like this and you say this. I needed to get to know them. And to me, any kind of creative process is a process of intimacy, and I'm very shy as a person myself. You know, I use an example sometimes. If you're invited to a party, you come into a party, you don't know anybody there, and then they ask you to put the music on, and I would be absolutely horrified, because what if people don't like the music I put on? You know, and it's that if you make a creative suggestion in a group and you don't know the group, and if the group don't know you, how can we feel comfortable to exchange? So I spent a lot of time just getting to know them, to getting to know each other, so that we could be comfortable in each other's company, and then feel free to kind of work the way we work. And they all also work very individually as well. So we generated hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end with material that in the end, it was my kind of task to choose, to curate, and to gather and to kind of break apart and put together the material that we had developed. Yeah, so it was a beautiful experience. A lot of waiting, a lot of listening. It's a lot of shared respect. I mean, I can't get past the fact of coming into this room, to the space, which is called the Lichtburg, where they worked with Pina for nearly 40 years, and to see them, then to sit, you know, and you could feel the presence left out of the room where Pina would have been, and all of them turning to look at you, and you know, being completely open and warm and with such tremendous respect. When literally I came out of nowhere, you know, they had no knowledge of who I was, who I am. And they just treated me with so much generosity and respect. So it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in creating, really.
And you mentioned there this incredible image of being in the studio where has created for 40 years the company's worked, and the sense of a space or an element where she would have been that you walk in to try and feel. When you were coming into this party, did you have any did you feel any weight, or was there sort of any preconceived notions in your mind about how you were going to sort of feel this, I guess? Or
I just I mean, the task in itself, you could have said, could have carried a lot of weight and responsibility, but I normally say that I sleep well at night, and I'm good at kind of focusing on the right things and not being kind of taken by circumstance. So I kind of quickly forgot the weight of the project. Apart from the first stepping into the room, realized, and you know, it hasn't changed. It's still the converted cinema that we've seen in documentaries since the last 70s. And my favorite, if you don't know much about Pina, I think you should watch the Chantal Ackerman one, which shows them kind of growing to the peak of their celebrity and of their time, and just see how they work and how they began. It's a beautiful portrait of them, and just to recognize this space and just realize it's like a time warp. Nothing's changed, and for me, it felt almost like a shrine. You know, like she insisted on working there, and you know, of course, there's a great energy in the room from all the period of them working there. But I think there was also a reason why Pina loved to work in that space, and why they all cherished that space. So it's, you know, it's like, there's a very, very, very special feeling.
And the company having chosen, this moment really to sort of expand their repertoire and to look outside the company for new creators such as yourself. I'm just wondering, your background is firmly rooted in classical ballet. Tell us a bit about your background and sort of how you brought the sort of your background and the background of Pina's work and her company together.
Yeah, I mean, I have somewhat schizophrenic both trajectory of my career and my background. I grew up in a theater. My father was a dresser, so I would religiously watch the shows that was put on in the little local regional theater in my hometown. But for years, when I was in those most formative years between 10 to 17, and then I had this great idea. I wanted to do dance, and I was convinced I was going to do contemporary dance, but I was also knew somehow that I wanted to start with ballet, and was fortunate to be trained with a wonderful teacher in the technique of Vaganova. He had been educated at Mariinsky, and then as soon as I became a dancer, I wanted to choreograph, and I was always writing a lot. My first solo dance performance for myself could have been described as a monologue performance, monologue theater. It was 40 pages of text.
Wow.
And then I started working with dancers and text, and then I developed my company, which then I went on to work with actors, alongside with getting commission work for dance companies, contemporary dance and classical companies. So then I developed kind of a theater career on the side. So I'm a little bit kind of straddling this world that my legs are sliding apart, one foot in theater and one foot in dance. So some would know me as a theater director and others as a choreographer. And then, of course, I mixed the worlds, as in the case of Tanztheater, where we were both speaking and moving and simultaneously and not,
And the company...
So it's a bit schizophrenic.
Yeah, it does sound a bit schizophrenic. Perhaps actually like a perfect fusion that has brought you to this project.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, the company's got 36 dancers, representing 3 generations from 19 different countries.
Yeah.
How did you talked about the conversations and your exploration that you had with the dancers? How many of those have you used in your piece that's going to be premiered?
Oh, all of them.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, I wanted... for me, the experience of being together with them was so strong that I feel like, oh, God, this is really the piece. And any kind of theatrical work that you can create will never be able to emulate this feeling of being with them right here and now. And I wish that we could have just gotten the audience in here and been part of our process, and that would have been the best way to kind of present them today. Because they're so innovative and so amazing and creative and such beautiful people when you get close to them. So I wanted to set up a space, and I worked with Alex Eels, the set designer, to create this kind of, we said, could we recreate the Lischborg? But we didn't want to make it that one-to-one, but a space that felt like a rehearsal space, that was their space, so they could physically move from one room to another through their memories and their stories, which came up through the process. And when I started building that, I wanted every dancer to have a voice in the piece. So I hope that you can feel the kind of tapestry of different voices. But of course, like all the works I do when I work with reality, there's a certain degree of fictionalization, so that it's personal and intimate, but it's not private. And hopefully you'll feel and experience it as one story, which is them, the group of them together. Well, it's incredible, Some of them are, very early 20s, and some of them are late 60s, And for me, that was, it's a very unique thing, because when you work with the dance company, when do you get to work with so many generations in one? It's that's such a treat. And I often say, there's a certain topics you can explore when your performers are only in their mid-20s, There's certain stories and certain experiences that they have lived through. So it's just for me, as a creator, to be able to work with people who've experienced all streets of life in terms of time makes the project very much richer.
I can imagine that must be having so much sort of different depth of experience to draw upon, like you say, that tapestry and bringing that all together.
Yeah,
it sounds exactly as you say, a unique company and a unique opportunity, and I just wonder when. And you get such a sense of almost what it is, what we're about to see in London. But what would you like people to take away from the performance when they walk out of the theatre?
well, like I always want with any kind of performance I create, I want to move people physically and figuratively, because that's what I want myself when I sit in the theater. I want to feel slightly changed and feel like I learned something about myself. But aside from that, I hope that you can get a sense that you get to know them, who they are today, because we know them very well through the work of Pina, which is also them. But who are they today? So that's one of the answers I was trying to find. That's why all the conversations and the kind of very in-depth exchange between them to find out where are they now, who are they now. So I hope you get a real sense of them as the people they are. Yeah.
And do you think there was any sort of real creative risks that you took when you were working with the company that maybe pushed you outside of your own, or them outside of their own comfort zone?
Oh, God, probably. I don't know if I can, but that we spend a lot of time developing a mutual trust so that we wouldn't have to be afraid. So we felt we could do exactly what we wanted to do. So in that sense, that in itself might be a risk, but it didn't feel like it. It felt so safe because it felt so true, because it's true. Like Helena says in the beginning of the piece, she tells a story about losing her brother and go traveling to pick up his corpse and in Turkey, because she wasn't at home when he died, and she had lots of strange experience connected to this, and Andre asked her, do you think anyone will believe this story? And she says, well, I don't know, maybe some, maybe yes, maybe no, but it's true, it's all true. And it is. Every word that is spoken on that stage is a truth. Yeah.
And do you have music to go with the spoken word?
Oh, lots of music.
Yeah, tell us about your soundscape.
Oh, well, I usually say that my performances are bad excuses for not making a movie. I try to emulate a cinema on stage as much as I can through use of light and sound. So there's a lot of cinematic type of music and a lot of melancholic soundscapes, which is things that move me, and I felt through rehearsals moved them. And a lot of I build a playlist of things as I prepare for our work, and it's just a beginning, things that I want to bring into the rehearsal space, and then we listen to the music together, and then we run out of tracks, and some tracks are suggested automatically, and then you like some of them, and you shuffle, and then another track comes. So it's kind of, I feel like the process builds the playlist, and by working together in the studio, and then I find a song, and then I select it, and then that generates another. And sometimes also serendipitously I would push shuffle in my playlist, or in an open playlist that was auto-generated, and things would coincide with what happened, and it was just perfect. Wow. So we would then take it with us on stage. There's a lot of fantastic serendipitous things that happened during this creation. It was beautiful. Yeah. So it felt like the piece somehow made itself as well. Wow. I just got to be part of it.
It just sort of evolved and appeared, it sounds like, almost through the company and yourselves together. It sounds wonderful.
They work, they used to, and they still do some days. They used to work every day in the morning, and then have a big break, and then work in the evening. And I really, really understand why Pina loved to create at night, because there is a sense of atmosphere when it gets towards 10 o'clock, when you're kind of exhausted and there's nothing left to explore, and then suddenly things happen. And when you look at the rehearsal logs, which are endless notes and video clips of ideas that was presented, suddenly you see like, oh, here's 40% of the piece.
Wow.
From this Monday night, almost in this order, because it was just a very good moment of creative burst.
Yeah, I can imagine the energy must be very different at the end of the day as it is to the beginning of the day for a dancer and for a company and for yourself as the creator.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. It's a very special thing, actually. So I understand why she loved to work like that.
And has there been a moment, or maybe that moment is yet to come, where you've sat down and wondered what Pina would have thought of or will think, or would have thought of your piece? Is that too heavy a burden?
Oh, God. Yeah. I don't know. But sometimes it would come across, but I think I always try to answer my question is that she would have most certainly insisted that one stays true to oneself and one's own gut feeling. As I learn, I never had the opportunity to meet Pina, but I feel like I know her really well because of the people I got to spend, the people who lived and worked with her, and through them I got to know her. And this confidence in your own decisions and never doubting and not caring so much about external opinion and listening to the situation that's there in front of you. I think that's key, and I think that's an advice I would have given myself from her, I think.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that's what she would have done. And she spent a lot of time setting up protected spaces for them to create.
Safe spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can kind of ignore the rest of the world and do, which was amazing, and suddenly we have New York Times coming to watch the rehearsals and realize, oh, really? The New York Times don't generally come and watch my rehearsals.
Wow.
But still, that, it didn't really affect anything because we had created such our space that nothing external really mattered. And there was a time, of course, as in every project where you go like, oh God, I hope the world is happy with what we're creating, or I hope, of course I want to make a successful work for them more than anything, more than for myself. But then I realized even if this work was to be a gigantic flop, if this was to be a bad creation, a bad result, that's not really the point. This piece is bigger. The work we're doing in the studio now, I was thinking, is bigger than this creation, it's bigger than me. It's about them creating again and kind of leveling the playing field. I said this many times because when the young dancers and the most experienced dancers restage Pina's work, there's some of them who has all the knowledge, all the experience, and some of them that have no knowledge. So there's a hierarchy that has to be like that because there's a master and an apprentice basically. But when they go into a creation together, then the playing field is leveled and they're all on the same level. So they have the experience of creating together as true colleagues, and then going back to recreating or restaging Pina's work, they will have a shared experience of creating together. So I think that's part of why this is important to do, that they continue to do creations together, to take best care of Pina's work.
Absolutely.
Which is all about creating. Yeah.
And continuing the legacy as well. And as you said before, the truth of the company and the truth of the dancers and the truth of the future direction, so that it remains authentic but continues to be able to progress into the future beyond, sadly, Pina's death. So that we can all continue to enjoy her legacy and the future.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Pina is dead, but they are very much alive. And the way they create, it's about now and creating new things and new moments. And that shouldn't stop. I don't think Pina would have wanted that.
No, and as you say, this relationship between the new artists and the artists who have been with the company for many, many years, that shared experience in the studio and that transference of information and experience and perspective must be really interesting to sort of watch how they physically move and interact with those different perspectives. Tell us a bit about how that sort of works in the studio with the different types of dancers.
Oh, well, I think no, it depends. They're all individual. Some of them will sit and wait and watch, and I will do the same, can be for weeks, it can be for days, hours. there's no pressure to actually do or achieve something every day. And there's, that our cast was 16 people, so there's 16 people working all the time. Some will be constantly busy with something, writing or moving or creating. Others will reflect and think. And, I could say, I think probably some of the younger ones were a bit more timid in the beginning, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. Yes, it's true, certainly true for some of them, for others not. And vice versa for the people who work a lot. They would also try to figure out, what is this now? What is creating now, today?
What an interesting question, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
a really interesting question for the company and for the dancers as well, isn't it?
And they bring such different things to the table. Some will come up and tell you a story, and some will not say anything, and they'll move a lot. And some will do something in between, or create something with objects or paint. Or it's a wonderful, wonderful, because they are trained by Pina that anything goes. There are no rules. There are no. It's all
no limitations, no boundaries.
And that is such a wonderful reassurance. And we came into this factory space where we had the set because there's limited stage time, so we built the set up in a factory hall, and we came to this, and we were all looking at each other, going like, "Well, we missed the lift work, we missed the place where we feel safe, and now we're in this theatrical world." And we tried a little bit, and some of the dancers were good, and they moved around the set and tried different things. And I was sitting there, and I was like, I don't know, I don't have a feeling or an idea right now. And and they said, "Oh, but that's okay. With Pina, that happened a lot. Sometimes we would just wait and wait and wait for days, and suddenly we did something, and that allowance takes the pressure off, and then you can immediately get up and start creating." Because it's not so precious. I don't know. It's wonderful to have that confidence, to experience people that are so confident and that transfer that confidence onto you. That's a beautiful thing. Because that kind of enables you also.
Yeah, especially in a world where everything is, tight budgets, and you don't get much time in studios, and you've got to produce something and produce. Yeah, to actually be able to work with a company that has no boundaries and just it sounds like the most incredible place for a complex, exciting artist to be, where no matter how you feel, not being confined to being a dancer, or being a performer of a physical kind, being able to paint and speak and sing and act or move things or do nothing or be quiet or, what an amazing place to be, to allow that true inner creativity to come out however.
Yeah, it's incredible. And to be allowed to go on stage, and without a title. We don't have to have a title because Pina never had a title, You don't have to decide all the costumes a year before because the piece isn't there, but, which is... I don't know what people know about how things are created, but a set for an opera house, you have to deliver it 14 months before for a lot of places,
Yeah, wow.
And you go in the studio maybe 6 weeks before the show opens. So then you've kind of imposed a big kind of theory or an artistic dogma onto the process a year prior to you even meet some of the dancers for the first time. That's the reality of doing commission work.
Yeah.
So to do this so topsy-turvy was just amazing. I was invited to spend a week with them a year before we started creating, just to get to know them.
Wow.
Which was amazing. That in itself is a long story. But it was incredible. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, this extraordinary experience creating this work and working with the company just sounds phenomenal. I can't wait to see the piece, and I know that you've got so many stories from your time with them. But is there anything that you feel that has really changed you as a creator, or an experience that has really stuck with you that you will take with you forever, apart from just having generally had this opportunity?
Oh, well, for sure that, but so many things that would happen, I don't know, that made you feel like, this is okay, this is all right, this is how it should be. Oh, I wish I could come with, there were extreme experiences, like, I remember one of the first things that happened, literally the first thing, when I was there a year before, I asked them after 3 days of talking and getting to know each other, I said, would you mind creating some responses to our conversation? And I'd taken some points down on a piece of paper, and they just started, and it was like, poof, explosion, and they just created lots of things. It was like watching many Pina Bausch performances in one, and one of the first thing that happens was Rainer writing on a blackboard lots of words in response to, I guess, because we've been talking a lot and he hadn't said much, and I don't know him, and he's a beautiful, intense performer, and he was so creative in this process, and just him writing, and he opened up the two mirrors in the back. There's a lot of text that he's written, and he says, moves me physically in the middle of the room. And he says, read out loud what it says. And he has a bucket and a sponge in his hand. And I say, I can't read. I say, I can't see the letters. Well, you better move forward. And he starts saying it rapidly. So he makes me shout and run towards the blackboard.
Wow.
And then as he erases the text in front of my eyes, and he throws the sponge down, and I wish I could remember the words. And it's probably better that I couldn't. But it was like three big existential words. And he said, and I shouted them out, and he said, well, you got the most important thing. And he threw the sponge down and he walked away. No comment, no nothing. I'm literally standing in the middle of a room, trembling. I don't know these people. And I've immediately been put on stage inside of an immersive piece of Tanztheater. It was an incredible experience. And yeah. Good. So that's things like this. But, to be honest with you, I feel almost like I shouldn't really talk about these things.
Yeah.
Because Pina was made such a point of not really showing anything about how things happen and how things came about. Just let the work speak for itself. So, but of course, I'm a different person. I'm all about sharing. So,
and we love that. But also, we also respect both perspectives. Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, I can't wait to see it in London. I'm absolutely just waiting. I know that everyone will love it. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your wonderful holiday in Thailand to talk to me. That's so great.
Well, likewise.
And for our listeners, if you're in London, I believe the tickets are already sold out, because I've had friends asking me if I can get them tickets.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it's totally sold out, I'm absolutely sure. But if you're still interested, check out settlerswells.com, and also go to the website and what's your Instagram there, Alan? Is it Winter Dream?
Oh, no, Winter Guests. That's
Winter
my company.
Guests.
Winter Guests. And then I have my own Alan Lucien, I think.
Alan Lucien. Yeah. So to learn more about Alan's work, check him out on Instagram and online as well. Thank you so much, Alan. Have a fabulous holiday.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe. We've got some incredible interviews coming up with principal ballerinas and renowned choreographers. We love dance and ballet, and we hope you'll love us. Join us on Facebook and Twitter.